understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. 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 How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שברחים גם יחד. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום.
How good it is. How sweet it is. How sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is. How good it is. How sweet it is. How sweet it is to be together on this day. Nemato, umanai, sheverachim,
How good it is for all of us to be together on this day, in this place, under the stars, Shabbat under the stars, our final outdoor Shabbat of the summer. It is so good to be together. It is so good to be with all of you. I'm Rabbi Zach Pleasant. I'm joined by my full clergy colleague team, Rabbi Alana Nemetov-Bressler, Rabbi Michael Friedman, Cantor Julia Cadrain. We are joined with a full musical team tonight also, Adam, Mike, David, and Mary. We have Rob and Stephanie and Lilach and Sarah and Noah and Eric and Sean, of course. But most of all, perhaps tonight, we are here because of our executive director, Bryan Bierman. And to celebrate Bryan's 10 years of service to Temple Israel. We've started saying as a community, as we welcome Shabbat, if it's your first time here, if it's your 10th time here, if it's your 1000th time here, you have always belonged here. And I know that for me, a big part of why I feel like I belonged here so quickly after I started last year was Bryan Bierman. So I am so excited to be a part of this team and this whole community as we together honor Bryan this evening. So to begin, Bryan, we're going to ask you to bring your entire family with you to help us light our Shabbat candles.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
And what a beautiful family you are. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
It wouldn't be an outdoor Shabbat if we didn't struggle to light the candles.
But while they're doing that, let's turn to page 131. We'll sing Shir Chadash and welcome in Shabbat together.
Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Shiru l'Adonai. I will sing unto God a new song. Page 136. Mizmor shir le'yom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, tov lehodot l'Adonai, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon.
Page 140.
Mizmor shir le'yom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, lehagid baboker chasecha, ve'emunatcha ba'leilot, lehagid baboker chasecha, ve'emunatcha ba'leilot. Mizmor shir le'yom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, lehagid baboker chasecha, ve'emunatcha ba'leilot, lehagid baboker chasecha, ve'emunatcha ba'leilot, lehagid baboker chasecha, ve'emunatcha
Jewish musician and composer Joey Weisenberg was asked a very elemental question. Why do we sing? And he said, well, singing is the only possible natural response to the unspeakable glory of being alive, the beauty of nature, the gratitude we feel when we gather as a congregation here at this time. So friends, the words hardly matter, though we will be singing the words of Lecha Dodi on pages 138 and 139. The words hardly matter. What matters is the feeling that comes from your soul. When we open our mouths, when we let our vocal cords soar, somehow we rise together. And so, as we sing through Lecha Dodi, I invite you to feel that lift this Shabbat, and then we will physically rise to greet the Shabbat bride who comes to join us. So we'll face the direction of the setting sun when we rise for the 9th verse.
Lecha Dodi likrat chala v'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat chala v'nei Shabbat nikabela. You sound beautiful. לקראת שבת, לכו ונאכל, כי אם בכל הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה, במצ'בה תחילה לך אדוני, לקראת כלה ולשבת נקבלה לך אדוני, לקראת כלה ולשבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומאורי. אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני, עלייך נקרא לך אדוני, לקראת כלה ולשבת נקבלה לך אדוני, לקראת כלה ולשבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה לך אדוני, לקראת כלה ולשבת נקבלה לך אדוני, לקראת כלה ולשבת נקבלה לך אדוני, לקראת כלה ולשבת נקבלה לך אדוני, לקראת כלה ולשבת נקבלה.
We remain standing and turn to page 146 for Baruch Hu.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Baruch hu et Adonai
is one who sings the song of his own life. You may be seated. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nivarech, let us bless, page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai
Page
Elohecha
154.
b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam lehot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'ktavtam amezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem be'eretz Mitzrayim lihot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
All day yesterday, I noticed I was feeling down. Finally, frustrated with my own complaining, I decided to make plans with a friend for the evening. The simple act of making a change, of doing something to flip my own experience, lifted my mood dramatically. When our people were slaves in Egypt, they struggled emotionally as well. A lot worse than I was doing yesterday. And when they were finally freed, they sang with joy and celebrated their emotional and physical freedom. Today, we may not be physically enslaved, but moments of emotional distress can still hold us captive. My experience of connecting with a friend was enough to lift me up last night. May this moment of Mi Chamocha remind us that we can absolutely be lifted up, not only out of our physical distress, but our emotional distress as well. Page 158, we sing.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nidar kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nidar kodesh. Noradi Lord, osei velen. Noradi Lord, osei velen.
turn to Hashkivenu, our prayer for protection and shelter, on page 160.
Spread the shelter of your peace. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom. Save us for the sake of your name. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom.
The Hasidic masters suggest that our feet should be rooted on the ground when we pray the Amidah. I would add to that that we also need to take a few deep breaths before we pray. For how often do we stop and actually take a few deep breaths in our day? I'd venture to guess it isn't very often. So I invite everyone to rise, to ground yourself with your feet on the ground firmly, and take 2 deep breaths. And another one. We join in the words of the Amidah, beginning on page 164.
Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagi, Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevi Gula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen. Baruch Atah Adonai, Magin Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol, Atah Rav Lehoshia. Morid Hatah, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Berofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Wemit, Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'neiman Atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim bechol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. We continue with our own personal reflection and prayer using the words of our heart or of our books, remaining standing or being seated as you're comfortable. This is a dedication to you, Bryan. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place and time again. If not now, tell me when. I see sorrow and trouble in this land. I see sorrow and trouble in this land. Although there will be struggle, we'll make the change we can. If not now, tell me when. If not now, if not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place and time again. If not now, tell me when. I may never see the tell me when. We'll work until it's done. Every daughter, every son, every soul that ever longed for something better, something brighter. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. But miracles do happen every shining now and then. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place and time again. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when.
But miracles do happen every shining now and then. When someone in our life, in our family, in our community, someone close to us is in need of healing, we're hoping for that miracle. But we don't know that it will come. We don't know when, whether now or in the future. And so Misha Berach is that moment that, yes, asks for healing, but also just sends our strength and support to those in need of healing, to those who care about those in need of healing, and all of the support that we generate together, that can do something. We bring that support, that love into this world when we have our moment of Misha Berach. If you are thinking of someone who you want to bring their name forward into this community for Misha Berach, please do so at this time. In our temple community, we add the names of Israel Avraham Ben Chia Rachel, Marta Adams, Frida Easton, Steve Elliott, Jackie Fuchs, Lanny Gans, Jeff Helfand, David Hidalgo, Peter Hort, Penny Castley, Natalie Kellner, Phyllis Kamansky, Sheldon Manspeaser, Don Matthews, Barbara Nash, Stephen Newworth, Ruth Ocean, Carol Randall, Robbie Regano, Deborah Lynn Ross, Sandy Schenker, Kathy Soroka, Eric Stitzkin, Esther Stone, Giotto Tamakuwala, Joan Wetzler, Yocheved Sarah Bat Etel, and Moshe Yaakov Ben Yocheved. Misha Berach, this prayer is for those names we said out loud and those we hold in our hearts. This prayer for all of them on page 371.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor Lema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Friends, sometimes when we're out here or at the beach, I like to remind us, and remind myself too, that the original form of Jewish worship was out of doors. Of course, it was the time when we went through the desert and had the Mishkan, the little tent at which we worshiped God. But then when we entered our capital city, Jerusalem, and we built the temple, worship looked a little bit like this. If you can imagine, over there, maybe by those wood chips, was a pen of bleating goats. Bleating goats. They would bleat, they would bleed later, but over here they were bleating goats. And then over here they had to be slaughtered with a sharp knife. Blood would run downhill. And then over there was a platform with fire. And the parts of the animal were burned because they believed that's how you communicate with God. And doesn't a nice barbecue smell awfully good? And then there were other people who had to come. There were people who had to tend to the goats and slaughter them and clean up the blood and do the burning on the altar, and others who had to come in and clean up the ashes after them. This was dirty work. It was also sacred work. Our Torah uses the word avodah, work, to describe this system of sacrifice that was in place for the first 1,000 years or so of our people's existence. And the people who did this work, this dirty, stinky work, the Kohanim, were the most exalted in Jewish society. They were sort of the hereditary aristocratic class. And by the way, they did all of this dirty work in white linen, according to the Torah. And then eventually the temple was destroyed, and Jewish worship and ritual changed completely. Evolved, we might say. No longer just avodah, work, now avodah shebalev, work of the heart. All this work of animal sacrifice moved inward. And the attention shifted from the Kohanim, whose hands were literally full of blood and guts and ashes, to rabbis and cantors and musicians up at the front of the room. Those who were leading up here got the most attention. But there was still always so much work behind the scenes that needed to happen in order for all of the success of Jewish worship and ritual to come into the world. For as long as there have been synagogues, there have been individuals who work so hard to ensure our safety, to make sure the checks are cashed and the bills are paid, the cemetery is tended and managed, that health insurance is provided to the staff, that the heat and air conditioning function. All of this is sacred work. Bryan, you've been here 10 years doing the work of the Kohanim, and sometimes also the work of the clergy. You know this. I see a number of people who are here, not just because, for example, you make sure that our computers work, but a number of people who are here because you personally engaged them, brought them into Jewish life when they were young or perhaps older. So you bridge the work of the ancient Kohanim, the ancient priests, and clergy as well. All of the work of our congregation is sacred, not just this stuff up here. In addition, Bryan, you have over these 10 years, usually the technology works. You, over these 10 years, Bryan, have become a trusted voice of wisdom and expertise, in addition to everything else that you do, like making sure the lawn is cut and the trees are trimmed. Friends, I believe that we are called to be God's hands in this world. We believe in a God who has no form, no shape, no corporeal being. And so it is up to us to make God real, to be God's hands in this world. So I think of Psalm 145, which includes a line that I love. Poteach et yadecha umaspia l'chol chai ratzon. With the work of your hands, you provide everything that we need to succeed and flourish. Originally a line written in praise of God. Tonight, Bryan, we can use it in praise of you as well. Thanks to your work, thanks to your hands, all of us can form a sacred community here. And if Rabbi Inby would help me for a moment. Where are you? Oh, good. We have a little gift for you, Bryan. Would you come up for a moment? Great. This is for you. I would ask you to open it. What is it? What is it, Ava says? What is it, Dada? What is it? Do you know what it is? What's it called? It's a yad. Exactly. It's a yad, Bryan, that certainly can be used to read Torah anytime you like. More significantly, we hope that it will sit in your office proudly as a reminder of this occasion and a reminder that your hands every day do sacred work, no matter what it is that you may be handling behind the scenes for all of us. It is sacred work that allows God's presence to be felt in this world. And so with gratitude and appreciation from all of us to you, we present you this yad on this occasion and in recognition of your 10 years of commitment and leadership to Temple Israel.
Good evening. I'm Maury Wind. But tonight I'm really not Maury Wind. Tonight I'm John Kaufman. Okay. And the pressure is on to say what John Kaufman wrote because he couldn't be here.
John's the president of our congregation,
I apologize.
for those who may be new.
Okay. So it's Mr. Kaufman to me. It is not often in the synagogue staff world that you have an opportunity to promote from within. Bryan is an exception. for so many reasons. He started his career with us as Director of Youth Programming, moved on to Director of all Temple Programming, and most recently stepped into the role of our Executive Director, the biggest staff job at a synagogue, and one usually filled by someone far older and with many more years of experience under their belt. But we had full confidence in Bryan's ability to succeed in this latest role. And we were right. Bryan has approached all of his roles with an exceptional level of commitment, creativity, and professionalism, and it has translated into tremendous accomplishments throughout his career at Temple Israel. He has grown into a true leader. As an executive director, we all rely on him to manage the increasingly complex business of the temple. He does not disappoint. Rather, he amazes. In a world where synagogues must evolve and find new approaches to the way business is done, Bryan is always thinking ahead for continuous improvement, and he is part and parcel to the tremendous success at Temple Israel. With a can-do attitude and no task too big or too small, Bryan makes things happen, and always with a positive attitude that makes him an absolute pleasure to interact with for lay leaders, for clergy, for other staff, and for all our congregants. As a result, so many of us are lucky enough to consider him a true friend, and we are all lucky that he chose to make a home for himself, literally, at Temple Israel, and that he and his family are part of our Temple family. Bryan, mazel tov on 10 years. We are so grateful for all you have done and continue to do for all of us.
So dinner? Anyone? I'm just kidding. Wow. 10 years. Just a little bit under a third of my life I've been at Temple Israel. It seems like a lifetime ago, I stumbled upon the posting title of Director of Youth Programming, and I said, I think I can do this. And I said, let me apply. I never thought I was going to be here still. I remember my first day at Temple Israel. I got a phone call from the Karens at that point, and they invited me here for a full day of Temple Israel love. I thought it was so cool. I got a hotel room, I got my travel paid for, and everything was perfect. I met with the clergy, some lay leaders. I had tangda for lunch, and let me tell you, I thought it was great. After the full day of interviews, I didn't eat much, and I ran across the street to Dunkin' Donuts for a quick donut, and I loved it. I do remember it was a jelly-filled donut. Boy, did I ever think that was going to lead me to here 10 years later. Because this is my 10-year anniversary, I thought I could do top 10 things that I've learned about myself since starting at TI. Number 1, how to order food for a group of people. If you don't know, I think I'm the Temple Israel grandma that cooks for everybody, meaning I order for everybody. I haven't just enjoyed doing the orders, but also I love seeing people actually eat the food that I order. Sometimes people like it, sometimes people don't, but it makes me smile. I also know the whole Angelina's menu by heart. Number 2, I'll stick with food for a moment because that's who I am. I learned I should always eat at events. Yes, it seems so simple, but for the first 5 years, you might not know this, I never really ate at events. I would always leave the event and be starving, so I would go to McDonald's or Subway on the ride home. I learned the hard way many times with Emily saying, "Hey, did you eat?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, I see the McDonald's you came home with." Okay, enough with the food. Number 3, I have learned every single corner of our building, and also I think I'm the historian of Temple Israel. Since being at TI, I've led 9 shul-ins, counting about 520 Shabbats, 9 high holiday seasons, 47 First Fridays, and a countless other large events. I know Ed Diamond, I think he's here, Ed Diamond, he would be very proud of me for knowing the ins and outs of the synagogue and knowing what's right and what's wrong. During the Temple Israel 70th anniversary a few years back, I did a deep dive into the history of Temple Israel. I learned so many wonderful things that I couldn't believe that I was working at this wonderful place. From MLK speaking, to reading every minute that was still in a binder from the 60s. I read it and I was like, oh wow, they actually did this? And I thought it was very cool. And I still couldn't believe I was here. Number 4, I think I know something about technology. Maybe a little bit. Often I feel like I'm like the Best Buy geek squad of Temple Israel. Don't get me wrong, Rabbi Pleasant is right behind me there. But I'm always amazed how you get to interact with technology. When we went viral for High Holidays a few years back, I became director of the service with an earpiece and everything. I felt so cool. And I realized when I kept looking at the numbers going up and up and up, I said, kind of like what the rabbi said, this was prayer. I was giving prayer. And that felt so amazing to me. And cheers to Eric and Sean, who are AV people, because they are my life in prayer when it comes to AV. A fun fact, we had no Wi-Fi when we got here. Just let that sit in for a little bit. Number 5, it gets a little serious as you get on. What type of Jewish person I want to be. Many people ask me about what does my family do Jewish when people sign up for membership. Well, Judaism is very unique for me. Most Shabbats, I can't pray. Or holidays, I'm working behind the scenes. But guess what? That's how I am Jewish. Judaism for me is making sure that your experience is amazing. Whether you have a full stomach, or you have a good chair, or the AC is too cold, or the AC is too warm. Can't have AC too warm, or the heat's too warm. That's Judaism to me. And I'm so happy to be on that side of things. I'm usually not up here, and I don't love being up here, so. Number 6, as you saw, I have kids. I did not have kids 10 years ago. Number 6 is I learned how to be a father. When I first came to Temple Israel, I didn't have kids, I didn't have a dog, I didn't have much. I had my college diploma and a smile on my face. Now, I can check all those boxes. I have children, I have a dog, I'm a father. You've seen firsthand the growth in my life. I remember coming to work the first day after meeting my wife, Emily. I was sitting outside of Jerry's desk, and Jerry looked at me and said, "Hey, do you want to have High Holidays at my house for dinner?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Bring Emily. I think this is the one." And I said, "Well, I think this is the one." And now we're here. Our wedding was here at Temple Israel. Both of our baby namings were here at Temple Israel / on Zoom. Temple Israel has been my family. Number 7, working on a team. I'm so thankful for the whole team at Temple Israel, from the clergy to the staff to the lay leaders. When I started youth director, I had a committee, then after committee after committee, I realized how much people love Temple Israel and how much it meant for people's lives. When you say, I work for Temple Israel, it's not just that I work for Temple Israel, but Temple Israel is my family. Number 8, don't take yourself too seriously. I always think to myself that a person on the other side of the phone, of a seat next to me, could be having a rough day. And I can never say, well, I'm Bryan Bierman, I'm the executive director. I always just introduce myself as I'm Bryan. Sometimes as the executive director, but mostly I'm Bryan, because I want you to know who I am. And we try to find common ground. My door is always open. I've been through some heart-to-hearts with you, and I can't wait to continue those heart-to-hearts. A lot of you out there on Zoom, on live stream, and here today, we've spent many hours together. Number 9, don't sweat the small stuff. No one's going to know things. This is something that one of my mentors told me. It's very important to me always to try to make things work. But I always tell myself, I can't sweat that sometimes half of the barbecue chicken was cold and half of it wasn't. Or I might have forgotten to put an attachment to an email. It's okay. I tried my hardest. And number 10, I learned to do me. You probably are asking yourself, what does it even mean? Well, everything that has happened to me in the past 9 years have led me to this. I've become Bryan that I knew I always wanted to be. I told my parents I wanted to be an executive director of a nonprofit when I was growing up, when I had my life at the YMCA. They encouraged me, and here I am. I am doing me. 10 years have passed so quickly. I could thank each and every person that has taken me here, but it might actually take us to high holidays, and I don't think anyone's ready for that. I know the clergy probably haven't finished their sermons. But I want to thank a few people. I want to thank my family. My wonderful wife, Emily, she's always been there for me, supporting me in my crazy adventures. My kids, Ava and Everett. You saw Ava running around. To my parents, thank you for always supporting me and pushing me to do better. To the rest of my friends and family that I know that you probably wanted to be here and you're watching online, I thank you. You mean the world to me. I would like to thank the TI clergy. Michael, you've been through this with me the longest, and I thank you so much, and I thank you for my growth. You are not just a mentor, but a friend. I remember sitting in your office, and you always said, you're going to get there, you're going to get there. And I always said, I hope it's here, I hope it's here. And I guess it's here. Julia, this past year, a little bit over a year, has been so great. You always are so happy, and you're always bringing that sunshine in my life, so thank you. Alana, the past few years, hi. Alana, the past few years have been an adventure. I've seen you grow into a rabbi that you want to become, and I'm so proud of you and proud to call you a friend. Zach, I think most people probably think we're brothers because we look very similar, but I don't mind that. I hope you don't mind that. And people have called me Rabbi Pleasant before, and I'm okay with it. I'm just kidding. Thank you for being you and caring so much about our relationship and your relationship to congregants. To the rest of the staff here at Temple Israel, I know the work is hard, but I appreciate you. I hope you know that. Lilach, Stephanie, Sarah, Robert, Eric, Troy, Lindsay, Lonnie, Lester, Karen, Jesse, Jerry, and Noah. You have made my life at TI a pleasant and great experience, something that I look forward to walking across the street and doing every day. And finally, to the congregants at Temple Israel, this story is just being written here for me. I can't wait to be the best ED that you wanted me to be, and know each and every time that you come talk to me, it's coming from the heart and love for me to you and for you to me. I'm always here for you and your family in good times and bads. Cheers to you. Shabbat Shalom.
Bryan, you get to come right here in the middle. You can come over here.
Bryan, in preparation for tonight, we invited our community to share some of the ways you have made a difference to us. We, your clergy, and two wonderful congregational representatives, Maury Wind, who's a member of our executive committee, and Diana Muller, who was president when you started here, we will share some of our congregants' responses with you now. Because of Bryan Bierman,
we became a Del B'nai Mitzvah.
We reconnected with our religion.
we have found a trusted and unbelievably helpful individual who is always there to lend a hand. Bryan helps in ways that nobody even realizes and is just a delight.
We have felt known, included, and engaged as members of Temple Israel and our Temple Israel family.
We have grown as Jewish professionals, learning from and with you.
We've been able to perform our jobs at TI with support and ease.
We have a true leader who cares and goes the extra mile.
We are contributing to the health of Temple Israel and staying engaged.
We are so very proud to call Temple Israel our spiritual home. Bryan, you are a blessing to us. And now we have the honor and privilege of offering you our tradition's most ancient and sacred blessing, the priestly blessing. Let's connect in. And congregation, you have a part to play here. You'll respond each line with the words, Ken Yehi Ratzon. That means, so may it be. And it sounds like this. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Beautiful, listen. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Ken Yehi Ratzon.
May God bless you and keep you.
Yair Adonai panav eilecha v'chuneka. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Ken Yehi Ratzon.
Bryan, may God's face shine upon you and be with you.
Yisa Adonai panav eilecha ve'yasem lecha shalom, shalom, shalom. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Ken Yehi Ratzon.
May God grant you peace. Amen.
Amen.
In addition to this beautiful ceremony, there are those of us who are here tonight who also want to honor and remember those whom we have loved and lost. So at this time, if you're here observing either Shiva or Shloshim, a recent loss, or Yartzeit, the anniversary of a loss of a loved one, we would invite you to rise, name aloud at this time. Names for Kaddish. In addition, as a congregation, we remember the Yartzeit on this evening of Jack Ackerman, Norman Bass, Sam Bauer, Melinda Betesh, Renee Braun, Clotilda Schottland, Harry Elberger, Ruth Goldberg, Charles Heller, Iris Jaffe, Sidney Kaplan, Goldie Kassoff, Samuel Kozlowski, Joseph Leslie, Esther Levy, Dorothy Lubetkin, Morris William Macy Sr., Ann Margolis, Kitty Newman, Sally Ravitch, Stephen Rubin, Ruth Sachs, Marty Sachs, Herbert Schlechter, Frederick Schwartz, and Alan Wasserman. We say Zichronam Livracha, may each and every one of those we have named out loud and in our hearts always be remembered for blessing. And we turn to page 698 in our Sidurim and rise as one congregation for these hallowed words of Mourner's Kaddish. 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agalau v'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah v'rach le'elam u'lamei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalom araba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav, huyasei shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the Holy One of Blessing, who creates harmony in the heavens above, bring peace to all of us, to the entire people of Israel, and to all humanity. And we say together, Amen.
Yaseh shalom,
Yaseh shalom,
shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We would love to call up our beloved cantor, Emeritus Cantor Richard Silverman, to help us bless the wine with the Kiddush.
Page 123. And as Cantor makes his way up here, we invite everyone back. Starting next Shabbat, we'll be back in our sanctuary, as we will for the high holidays as well. We especially invite everyone to join us on Sunday, the 11th, at 11 a.m. for Shalom Fest. Did I get the time right?
Unless you are a Kesher family, and then you should come at 10 a.m.
If you're a Kesher family, Kesher starts at 10 a.m. Shalom Fest starts we have something for everybody, including food trucks, including a beer garden, including all sorts of stuff for all ages. So those who are young and those who are young at heart, come reconnect with your TI community at Shalom Fest. Those of you who will be joining us for dinner this evening, don't worry, we'll bring the lights over to those tables. There is a table with Stephanie Schwartz and probably Sarah, and so I don't know who else is over there, but you guys can wave. You'll come and check in at that table, and you'll get your plate, and we'll enjoy a beautiful dinner on this, feels like the last Shabbat of summer. Technically, not according to science, but according to experience, this is kind of the last Shabbat of summer. So page 123.
Bryan, I'm probably the first staff member to have worked with you. So I also want to tell you that it's time for the goat's blood. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim Kivanu v'charta, v'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodecha, v'ahava uvratzon, inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim. We'll be glad to share this challah with all of you. Let's all join together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avot.
Shofar blown to help open our hearts. Tekiah. Shivari. Oh, just do Tekiah. That was wonderful, Rabbi. Shivarim. Trua. Tekiah Gedola. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.